So you guys should have in your kits some red paint, yellow, white, and black. If you need, I would recommend getting like a cup of water and a paper towel before you start. Right. So the first step for doing this is you're going to take your water, because in the background here, we don't want it to be fully like opaque. We want to kind of make a watercolor effect so that we can blend our sky really well. So I'm going to take my bigger brush, just start getting some water all over my canvas. And you want to make sure that your entire canvas is covered. So this might take a couple minutes. It'll get you into a nice mood to be painting. If it gets a little messy, that's okay because it's just water. Suppose you could use other kinds of beverages for this, but I feel like that would mess up the colors a little bit. But if you want to get creative and do some like grape juice, coffees, that would probably look pretty cool. Now I'm starting to run into an issue where my canvas is drying before I can fully wet it. So I'm going to just focus on the bottom and then make it watery as I go. Okay. So yeah, I'll just leave it at that for right now. If your canvas isn't fully wet, that's okay. So first I'm going to take my yellow. Again, make sure my brush has a lot of water on it. I'm just going to take a little bit of yellow, not too much. And start blending that in here on the bottom. And to create a nice sky effect, you don't want the entire thing to be solid yellow. You want to have some fading parts. You want to have some parts that are a little brighter than others. Kind of like a gradient effect, but not like complete all the way. Just going like that. Make sure it blends nicely by adding some more water. And I'm going to do a back and forth rhythm. And if a little white shows through, that's okay. I find this to be the most relaxing part of the painting because it's very forgiving. You don't really need to think about it too much. Just making a nice sunset. I'm going to want to do this to the entire canvas. Just keep in mind that the more water that you add, the more transparent your paint's going to be. As you can see, I'm kind of developing some brighter patches, some lighter patches. Phew. I'm allergic to painting, I guess. That doesn't stop me though. The weather's been very strange this term so far. We started off with a snowstorm and now it's 70 degrees out. So maybe we'll get a sky like this somewhere in the next. Hoping to be able to get outside a little bit this weekend because I think the nice weather is going to continue. Wasn't able to get outside today because of class, but I don't have class over the weekend, so maybe I will get some sun before we plunge into the darkness of winter. But I also like winter because it gives me an excuse to stay inside and watch TV all day. So I think there's benefits to both. As you can see, I'm kind of just going back and forth to get it to blend in, adding water when I can, lighten it up a little bit. Get this nice yellow sky. I'm trying to catch all these pieces that are dripping down because I'm doing this vertically, but it's tricky. I'm gonna make sure that I get these corners at the top. Blend it out a little bit more, and that should be good for my yellow. There we go. So while that dries a little bit, I'm going to start mixing some orange to put some more color into my sky and really make it look like a sunset. So you guys can see my palette. No, you can't. Alright, so I'm going to take my palette here and take a bunch of yellow because we're going to need a lot of orange. So this looks to be about like half of what was in my yellow cup. Now I want to start off with kind of a lighter orange. I don't want to go super dark, so I'm just going to take a little bit of red. Not too much, because the red overpowers the yellow really quick. Just mix that until I get a nice shade of orange. See, with just that little bit of red, I've already got a really strong shade of orange, so you don't need all too much. There we go, that looks nice. Just keep blending until you get a solid color. But if it's not solid, that's okay because we're going to be blending with yellow and red anyway, so should be all good. Alright, clean off my brush a little bit. I'm going to go back into my water because I want to try and blend this orange in with my yellow. So it's okay if your yellow is not completely dry yet. That'll just make it easier to blend. I'm just going to go right in the top here. Start getting some orange. And again, the more water you add, the lighter the orange is. So if you want a darker orange, just get a drier brush. Again, just do the same like side-by-side motions to blend that in. Really get your entire arm into it. Make it a workout. Maybe someday you'll be able to put Art and Design Club as PE credit. If you work your arm enough. Again, the goal is to make a sunset. So if you cover up a lot of the yellow that you put over before, that's okay. And kind of what I'm doing here is I want to make the top a little darker than the bottom. So I'm going from like the darkest shade down to the lightest shade. I'm going to put a lot of orange up here at the top and keep it more yellow down towards the bottom. I still want to have some pockets of yellow in here just to make it more visually appealing. Add some lighter orange down here. Almost looking like candy corn right now. I know it's after Halloween, but October went by so fast that I'm still in the Halloween mood. That's kind of what inspired this painting. I think it goes from Halloween to Christmas a little too fast sometimes, so. Just gonna keep adding orange until I feel like my sky looks nice and sunsetty, if that's a word. Sometimes we make up words here at Art Club. Again, I think I just want to make the top of the sky just a little bit darker than the rest. That sunset closer to the ground usually stays lighter. As up in the sky, it gets to be nighttime. Take some more water, really quickly blend that in. All right, it's getting to be a little closer to what I want. It's kind of a fun little trick to do. You rip off a corner of your paper towel. While it's still wet, sometimes you can pick up a little bit of the paint, make some really light clouds, and just give it some texture. Mine's already dried quite a bit. I don't think I'll be able to get the same effect I'm going for. So instead, I'm just going to take a little bit of my white paint, dip my paper towel in just a little bit. You don't need a lot of white. I actually think I grabbed too much. And with that, if you want to add some clouds in, you just very lightly tap with the paper towel. Just blend that in. You get some nice fluffy little clouds. That just adds a little bit more texture to your painting. Keeps it interesting. Again, if you don't have a paper towel or if you don't think that your sky needs any clouds, you don't have to do this step. This is just something a little extra I like to put in when I'm painting the sky. Just gonna do a little bit. What I think I want to do next is just take a little bit of red and really darken up these corners up here to make it pop. I have a bunch of red paint, so I might as well use it. Again, if I need to blend it more, I just take some water. Just go like that. Probably should have done this before the clouds, but that's okay. And again, what I'm going for is just some really bright colors that are going to make this pop. Right. If you guys need more time to do the sky, that's okay. I might just pause for a second here. Make sure my stuff is fully dry before I go in and start with the silhouettes. Now I might even add some more orange. Never enough orange in the sky. Interesting how the computer camera makes the colors look so much more vibrant than they are in real life. The contrast is really high. I think I'm gonna take a step back from my sky and leave it at that for now. I could do this all night. All right. Just check and see how dry this is. Yeah, since we use a lot of water, your sky is gonna dry really fast. Which is good because we want to move on to the silhouettes as soon as possible. So if anybody needs any extra time with this, please just let me know. If you need me to go faster or slower, just type it into the chat. All right, so when I'm making my silhouettes, the first thing I want to do is I want to kind of carve out where I want my land to be. So here at the bottom half of my canvas, I want to make kind of like a lake. And at the top, I'm going to have like a landscape with some houses and some trees. So I'm going to start here at the bottom. Just kind of outline out some hills. It's okay if your lines aren't perfect because we're going to add some grass onto that later on. So if your brush bristles make it kind of a messy line, it's just going to make it more interesting later on when we add the grass. Just keep going with that black. Try not to get on this desk. So there I kind of have the start of my hills. Now in the back, we're also going to have some hills, and those are going to be kind of just a little bit less than halfway, maybe a third of the way up on your canvas. Let's take that again. Really get an outline for this lake. Ooh, I made a mistake. That's okay. Just means my lake's going to be a little smaller than I thought it was going to be. There we go. Easy fix. Alright, so I'm going to have a little bit of a smaller lake than I thought I was going to, but that's okay. You just gotta adapt when you're doing paintings like this. All right. I'm also gonna have a little bit of land coming off over here. Maybe have a little bit of an island. Yeah, and you guys can add land wherever you want. It's a lake. It's meant to be kind of different and messy. All right. So I'm just gonna pause for a second if you guys need to catch up. This is kind of the basic shape that I want for my land and my water. And then after this, we're gonna start adding in the houses. All right. So I'm gonna start with this house over here on the left. Gonna begin with just a square to be the front of the house. Over here on the right, I'm gonna have a slightly bigger house. Just gonna make another square, rectangle, whatever. Just a little bit bigger. These are going to be kind of the guidelines for the two houses in this painting. So now I'm going to add on the sides. So I just want to come to this top corner of the house right here. Kind of just taper down until I reach the edge of the canvas. Kind of like a 45-degree angle. And now this house over here on the right is kind of in a different perspective. So I'm just going to take this and just do a straight line all the way across so that we get a big rectangle. Kind of looks like an abstract piece now. All right, and now for the roofs, I'm gonna make some triangles. So here, just a little bit over to where your original square was. Just gonna make another 45-degree angle-ish. And then at the ends here, it's gonna come off. Just like that. Then from the top of the roof, I'm gonna follow that same angle all the way down until you get a silhouette of a house. Yeah, Okay, you can mess around with the angles a little bit too until it gets to a point that you like. But kind of building your houses like this in steps really helps to understand like what you're making. Even if it's all in silhouette, it's important to really break down the shapes of what you're making and understand the foundations of it. Similarly, on the side, we're going to do another triangle. So I'm going to take roughly like halfway from where that original square was and just come all the way down. Same thing on the right or left. Whoops. That's just going to come off a little bit like this. All right, and the same thing on the side of the roof like we did with the side of the building. You just want to make that a straight line. So the perspective of this house, you're looking at it from straight on, whereas this house over here is kind of at an angle, so that's why it's got that taper. All right, lovely. We have two houses. From here, you can kind of add whatever details you want to your scene. I'm just going to be doing some basic like trees, a fence, but anything that you want to add, you can add. Make it look like a little fall scene. Clean up some of these edges down here. There we go. Okay, so now I'm going to switch from my bigger brush and I'm going to go over to the smaller brush so I can add some details. The first thing I'm going to do is just make a little bit of a fence coming off of this house here. And that's easy. You just got to add some lines. There we go. Maybe this house over here will have a cute little pumpkin. I'll add two pumpkins actually. And then down here, I'm just going to do some little details to add some grass, give it some texture. Texture is always a big plus when you're painting. I'm going to mix in some bigger blades of grass in with some smaller ones. Get some variety. Again, I'm just kind of make a mess because nature can be very messy. Sometimes if you make it look too not messy, it looks very artificial. It's like you can see the straight lines of the buildings that are made man-made kind of contrast with the messiness of the grass. Really make it nice and deep. Now going up here, I'm only going to do this grass texture on the top of these parts that are coming out of the water. I'm going to do a little bit here just to show that this is also grassy. Right, even adding that just a little bit of grass makes it look even more like land and a lake. Alright, so next what I want to do, I'm actually going to switch back to my bigger brush for this. So I'm going to make a couple of trees. One in the front and one behind this house back here. So my first tree is going to be coming up from around here on the right hand side. So I'm just going to start from the ground and just bring that all the way up. And since it's going to go in front of this house in silhouette here, you're going to kind of lose the shape of the tree, but we'll get that back later, so don't worry. And up here, start making some branches. And usually when you're painting branches, you want to have the bottom of the branch be thicker, and then the top of the branch is going to taper out. So just kind of wing it here. See what direction these branches want to go in. Again, nature doesn't usually follow strict patterns, so you want to get as random as you can get with these trees. Really have fun with it, let loose. And for the rest of my branches, I'm going to switch back to my smaller brush now that I have the big ones in place. I'm going to make these branches just go everywhere, all over the place. And with this small brush here, since it's kind of got a round point, what you can do is the harder you press down on it, the thicker it'll go. So usually what I like to do is I start at the end, apply really light pressure, and then as I get closer to the branch, we make it nice and big. Kind of give it a little bit of a wiggle. These branches can be kind of squiggly like that. I'm just kind of keep adding branches until I'm satisfied. Sometimes it's hard to be satisfied when you're painting. You want to keep adding more. So that's what's nice about having this time limit on art time. Is I know that, all right, I've got to make this whole painting in less than 2 hours. Gives me a little bit of a limit on how much I do. Again, I'm just not really thinking too much about where I'm putting these branches, just trying to see like, okay, if I've got some empty space, you get a branch. I think I'm going to leave it at that for that tree. Now I also want to have a smaller tree kind of poking out of the back of this house. Kind of my strategy with making these trees is I like to have just like one central set of branches in the middle and just do a lot of little tiny ones coming off of it. And again, to make these tiny branches, I'm just applying really light pressure with my brush, not pressing down all the way. Trees are my favorite part about fall. I love that week at the end of October where everything looks like it's on fire. We've got those really pretty maple trees. It's probably my favorite part about being in New England. All right, I think I'm going to keep it at that for the second tree. And again, you can add whatever little details you want in here. I want to add something down here at the bottom to kind of catch your eye. In my first painting that I did of this, I made a cat. I think I'm probably going to do that again because it's been a long week. My mind isn't working. But there's probably a million different things you can put down here other than a cat. But instead of making a cat standing up like I did last night, I'm going to make a cat sitting down and really mix things up a little. So for that, I'll start just like an oval. Gonna be the cat's back. second oval, kind of where it's like abdomen, chest area. I don't know cat anatomy. And then this third circle up here. Oh, that got a little big. Kind of looks like a snowman now. So make it kind of look into the side a little bit. Give it some ears. Tail. There, a cat thing. All right. I think that's all the silhouettes that I want to add. So now I just want to go in and do some detail work to really make this stuff pop. Clean my brushes, even though I'm just going to be going back and working with black again. No, wait, no, I'm not. I'm adding details. I lied. Like I said, my brain's not really working this week. I just heard my Outlook notifications going off. It's nice to hear after it was down all day last, what was that, yesterday? Yesterday. All right, so I'm going to start with my smaller brush. I'm going to take some of that orange we were working with before, and I'm going to add some windows to these houses. And that's just going to make them look a little bit more like houses. Most houses have windows, I think. Let's do that. I'm just going to take my orange and just make some squares. Actually, I might use my other brush for this. I'm having a hard time controlling that one. Square brushes are typically a lot easier to control than round brushes. Just gonna take that. Oh yeah, that's a lot better. Just make some windows. They don't have to be perfect squares. As long as it reads as a window, you should be all set. Make a second set of windows over here. I'm going to do kind of an attic window at the top here. For that, I'm going to do 2 triangles. There we go. Now that just looks a little bit more like a house. Add some smaller windows to this house. Instead of doing 4, I'm just going to do 2 squares. All right. Now I'm going to go back to that smaller round brush. And at the end, I'm planning on putting a moon in the background. It's kind of like a lighting source. So with that, I'm going to take my white. I'm going to add just a little bit of an outline to some of my silhouettes here. Almost like the moonlight is shining on them. And that's going to help me really define the shape of this tree here that's kind of blending in with the house a little bit. So I'm just going to take a little bit of white and just start outlining where I think that tree would be. I probably should have planned this out a little better, but we're just going to wing it and see if I can carve a tree out of this big silhouette. like I did with the branches, I'm just gonna let it kind of squiggle a little bit. These trees are kind of rough around the edges, you know? Again, what I'm doing is just trying to find the shape of that tree that kind of got lost here in front of this house. So it's a little more clear what we're looking at. I'm not doing a silhouette, or not a silhouette, an outline all around the tree. I'm just doing where I think the moon would be shining on the tree. Oh, that's the black, not the white. Alright, so you can see already that now it's making it a little bit more easy to see that there is a tree and it's in front of this house. Also gonna take a little bit of this white, just put it around the edge. Both of the houses. Just a little bit, not too much. This just makes it pop a little bit more. Again, trying to define some of those shapes that might have gotten lost in the silhouette. So I'm actually going to take where I think the edge of this roof is going to be and outline that a little bit. And if you mess up like I did right here, it's very easy to go in and just layer some black on top of that and get rid of it. Go away. All right. I'm also going to add a little bit to this tree in the background, not too much. So I want this one to kind of blend in with the back. That should be enough. All right. So the next thing that I want to add some white to is the grass to give it just a little bit more texture. So I'm going to start down over here. Start doing the same kind of grassy texture that I was doing with the black earlier. Again, I'm kind of just keeping it random. I don't have much of a thought process for this. Just kind of letting the brush take me where it goes. As I get closer to this house up here, I want to do the same thing that I did to the tree on the right. And just outline the grass so that I can kind of define where the grass ends and where this house begins. So it's not like just one big blob of black. So I'm going to add some grass. Fade it out a little bit once my brush gets a little drier. Palette because it's getting in my way. I'm going to do the same thing over here too. And to do this, I don't want a whole ton of white on my brush because I kind of want to just get a little bit, let it run out so I can kind of just dab in some textures. And even if you want to, you can take your paper towel again, kind of do the same thing you did with the clouds. Blend it out a little bit better. Just a little detail I'm going to add. Just a little dot for this cat's eye. Come on. That got messy. Again, these round brushes can be pretty hard to control. I prefer a square brush. But round brushes have their uses also. Alright, I don't think you guys can see that on the camera, but trust me, the cat has an eye now. Okay. So now the last part of the painting that I want to do is I want to add a nice big moon in the background here. So I think I'm going to start with my bigger brush to make sure that all of the black is cleaned off of that. Alright. So I want my moon to kind of be almost behind this house on the right hand side. Just gonna take a little bit of that white and start getting an outline of a circle back here. I just want to make sure that I don't paint over the house, but if you do, that's fine. You just have to paint back over in black. Probably would have actually been a good idea to do the moon before I did all the silhouettes, but hey, I can make this work. And then to kind of make like the shadows and the moon, really define those craters, I'm going to get back to my orange that I mixed in the beginning. Sky. I'm going to wash my brush. Again, I'm going to do the same thing that I did in the sky. And just take a bunch of water and make just a really transparent orange. Find some of these craters. I just want to do it lightly. You don't want to get too dark with this. I can also just go back in with my white. Add some more circles. Just get some nice crater textures in here. I'm gonna make the outside outline of the moon pure white. Just get it nice and bright. There, I think that kind of looks like a moon. And then lastly, since this water is reflective, you can take your white and just add a little bit of a reflection on here. They're just going back and forth, kind of like we did in the sky. Because the water is not going to perfectly reflect the shape of the moon. And it's just a painting. So we can be as vague about this as we want. Just go in and brighten up that water. I think that's about it. Some other little details you can add. This is kind of giving me a kind of Thanksgiving vibe too. So maybe some like more, I don't know, things you would see in like a pilgrim village, like a barrel or a carriage. If you want to go more spooky, you can put some bats in the sky. But yeah, anything you want to add to your little fall scene here. It's easy because you just put it in as a silhouette. And I think that's going to be it for this painting. It's the finished piece.